Starship Troopers Extermination, the games that fans of the franchise have always wanted, has finally left early access with an update bringing new content like a campaign mode, a new map, crossplay, and all kinds of new gameplay mechanics. I've really enjoyed playing this game throughout its early access journey, yet with the 1.0 update, Steam reviews have gone from very positive to mixed. Let's dive into this update and figure out what's going on.
Would you like to know more?
So a lot has changed since the last patch that I played. That was back when they had just added the Hive mode that featured the Bugs tunnel network and mobile nukes. And there's been a ton of technical improvements during early access, like the addition of NVIDIA DLSS, AMD FSR with frame generation. There's a new persistent corpse system that literally lets the bodies hit the floor and then pile up. And the new 1.0 update that brings the game out of early access has added a solo play tutorial mode that's supposed to teach you how to play the core mechanics of the game. It's even voice acted by the star of the original Starship Troopers movie, Casper Van Dien. Crossplay between PC and console has been implemented, which is absolutely huge for the overall player pool. There's a company, aka clan system now, that lets you work together towards missions and unlocks in the new Galactic Front campaign. And they've added a new massive bug called the Tinker that'll launch firebomb airstrikes, which are devastating. It all sounds great, but if you look at the Steam reviews, they've gone to mixed, with many players complaining about a lack of new content or not enjoying the content that was added, or pointing out the significant performance issues. A big complaint is that the fancy new solo tutorial campaign mode only teaches you half of the gameplay and forces you to rely on AI teammates, which really don't feel like anything special. And many reviewers feel that the whole Galactic Front system is broken because you have to request an invite to the companies to participate, but they only have 30 slots each and they're all user-made, so your experience seems extremely dependent on just who accepts you and how all of that goes. And I can confirm that there's still tons of performance issues and bugs, and I actually ran into a major bug that basically disrupted an entire match. Now, I will get deeper into my complaints and issues later, but I'd rather start with what I like about this update and just the game in general, because while a change from very positive reviews to mixed reviews is concerning, I think it doesn't totally paint a picture of just how much fun Starship Troopers experience is, or why it has 25,000 very positive reviews to begin with. Something I think the devs have really refined over early access, and furthermore with this patch, is the game's balance. Every mission I played featured a different mode and difficulty setting, but it never felt like the game wasn't challenging or overly brutal. Previously, the difficulty felt like it was all over the place. Some modes were an absolute cakewalk, while others, particularly the Hive mode, felt nearly impossible to complete. But every match I played this time around felt good, with bugs serving as a very real and constant threat, while still feeling powerful as a soldier, and especially when fighting together with groups. The 1.0 update made a few balance changes, but I think overall it's kind of like a cumulative effect of the devs really understanding the dynamics. I also really like how elements of the Hive mode have been added to the standard attack and defend modes, with some maps featuring underground cave sections that you have to fight through to reach the base. And Hive mode on its own is really an awesome experience, so seeing them incorporate that design into the standard modes is a big win, and it was kind of one of my main asks when I first played it. It seemed like a hybrid mode was the obvious choice. One of the crazier things added is the persistent bug corpse system that just has some crazy gameplay implications that I haven't seen explored in many games before. Basically, when you kill a bug, their body stays where it fell until it's destroyed by an explosion, melee attacks, or a flamethrower. And the dead bodies have collision. So as they pile up, they can actually make it hard to shoot the living bugs and even navigate the terrain. On paper, it might sound kind of annoying or not that cool, but in practice, it's a mechanic that adds a ton of depth and nuance to the game, and gives stuff like boost jets a greater purpose just for getting over piles and piles of bug bodies. It also just amps up the cool factor of defending the base and seeing an actual pile of bug corpses accumulate against the exterior walls. Now, of course, it is quite disappointing that this game has performance issues. The team behind it seems like they have AA team resources and that they're trying to accomplish something quite challenging: handle decently large teams of players while syncing hundreds of NPC bugs across all clients. I do not envy that challenge at all. It sounds like something extremely difficult. DLSS and FSR frame generation do help a lot, but they also kind of feel like a band-aid to cover up the underlying problems. There's still a lot of stuttering and clearly some networking glitches that cause bugs to skip around. But at least for me, performance is better than it was at the start of early access. It's just once you stick that 1.0 label onto it, you expect a product that is a lot more polished than this currently is. Also, the game only currently supports AMD's frame gen at the moment, which you can use on any card, but it is just kind of weird that that's in there but not DLSS 3. It does offer DLSS upscaling, but just not the DLSS frame generation. And again, frame gen should really be used for getting crazy high FPS in my opinion versus trying to achieve a stable FPS. Now, one of my favorite elements from the game from the moment of early access to even now in the 1.0 patch is the teamwork with 16 other players trying to defend a base, repair your base, build it out, and just make it out of your level alive. It seems like there's always been a close-knit player base dedicated to the war effort in the game, but now that everyone has had a chance to kind of play it a bit more, you don't feel as much like a burden to your team if you're not totally sure what you should be doing. Experienced players seem to take care of placing fortifications for everyone to build, and they're generally pretty darn good at it, since a big chunk of the game is fortifying the base against bugs, and the tutorial frankly does an awful job of explaining this. It's great that the community is there to essentially become a makeshift tutorial system, and it makes the whole experience of fortifying the base way more fun and feel like you're working together with your teammates so that you can then focus on killing the bugs. And also, thanks to the new crossplay features, queue times for matches have been cut down a lot, and I never found myself in a half-full match or stuck waiting for half of the team to get filled before the round could start. Now, when it comes to the rest of the bad, I honestly do have to agree with the somewhat mixed reviews on Steam. This doesn't feel like a polished 1.0 update. The performance issues, even on my high-end PC, are quite frustrating. The new tutorial campaign mode featuring Casper Van Dien could have been so cool. I mean, like, just hearing about it gets me excited. But unfortunately, what we have is basically just a handful of still images of his character model getting swapped around as his voiceover lines play in the menus. Pretty darn lackluster if you were expecting something more cinematic. It also kind of fails at just being a tutorial with almost no base building instructions. There's technically a separate base building tutorial, but it only teaches you the most basic mechanics and none of the important strategy that you'll actually need to understand. That's the sort of thing that a properly voice-acted campaign tutorial should be helping new players with, and what they've implemented just isn't going to do much at all. Then of course there's the lingering bugs, and no, I don't mean the cool looking alien ones. On one of the matches of the wave defense horde mode, we had a wave end and then the next one immediately started, even though the cooldown timer between rounds was still active. You're supposed to be given about a minute to repair and restock your ammo, but for whatever reason the next wave just started without giving us the reprieve, and we got wiped out instantly, as one would expect. Then there's the usual stuff like I got stuck in a wall. The game does seem to realize if you are stuck, and it did eject me, so I could eventually keep playing, but still having collision problems in a 1.0 release like this is annoying. The bug NPCs also skip around like crazy due to network delay issues or syncing all the AI between all the players, and the performance issues definitely get worse in intense moments, which makes the AI feel even worse, and little things like reload animations finishing but not actually reloading the gun for a split second. I've also run into gameplay issues that I've seen since the game first launched on Steam, like interactable objects rolling down hills and making it impossible to pick them up. And at one point I couldn't even place down my tactical nuke without trying like 4 different times. I mean, come on, this feels very early access and not ready for prime time. And I think that's what a lot of the mixed reviews are saying, is that if you've been playing this game throughout early access, all the performance and polish that you were expecting with a 1.0 launch just isn't really here. And the handful of new content with 1.0 was kind of a mixed bag, with one new map and a new elite bug. The crossplay is a really nice feature, but it's also a quality of life thing and less of a cool new thing to play around with. And the new tanker bug that they just added is kind of just another massive immobile bug that you pump hundreds of rounds into before it dies. Its airstrike is insanely devastating, but it also doesn't really evolve the gameplay in a way that I found interesting. So, for the most part, while I still really like Extermination and it's that Starship Troopers experience so many fans have wanted, I can't say that the 1.0 update feels like a momentous occasion. To their credit, the devs have a huge and ambitious roadmap full of new content, tech improvements, a second chapter for the tutorial mode, and tons of other features that sound awesome. And hopefully they are, and they get the game to feel more like a proper 1.0 release, as this one doesn't quite. What do you guys think about Starship Troopers Extermination? It is kind of like the game I always dreamed of having, and I really hope the devs can get it to a much more polished state so that it can maybe become a staple Starship Troopers FPS that's always fun to come back to with new updates. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave me a like, subscribe for more content like it, and ding that notification bell to beat the YouTube algorithm with me. Up next, check out this early access look at a game called Forever Winter, or The Forever Winter. It's a pretty interesting title, definitely worth at least knowing about. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. This is Level Cap, signing off.